I want to welcome everyone to our second meeting of Jackson Study Committee. I'd like to tell you that next month we're going to meet December the 11th with the House Committee. We have our first speaker today is with Capitol Police, but one of the things that we thought was integral towards the success of crime in downtown Jackson is when we instituted the CCID court system is to make sure that that functions well. At one point, there were 3,200 cases before the public defender that had not been addressed. And we're going to hear on that issue on December the 11th. The meeting will be at 10 a.m. in room 113 of the on the House side downstairs. There are a couple other subjects on that as well, but we think that's very important. And so today's hearing is centered around homelessness and the issue as it relates to Jackson, most acutely in downtown Jackson, but we certainly have the problem has reached out from downtown area. You see panhandlers in the Lakeland Drive area. I see them all the way up to County Line Road. You see them on Lakeland Drive near Ridgewood. So Bo Luckey is here today with Capitol Police. And just to refresh everyone's memory on the Capitol Police District, this last year the district expanded northward. The northern boundary used to be Northside Drive. At one time, it was just basically the downtown Jackson buildings and the University Medical Center and Jackson State. And then we expanded it to the east-west boundary line of Northside Drive. And July 1st, the boundary went farther north to the north side of Palm Bridges Park. That's Canton Mart Road. And it follows Old Canton Road to Westbrook Road. That's the east-west corridor now. And the good thing about that is that we brought in 3 schools, and we brought in Palm Bridges Park. We've had some unfortunate incidents to occur at Palm Bridges Park. We've had unfortunate incidents to occur at the big Kroger in Northeast Jackson. So we think that was a great move. So I say that because that is the district that Capitol Police is in charge of policing. So Mr. Captain Luckey, if you please address us today. If you'd please get up there at the microphone, because this is being broadcast on the YouTube channel and we want everybody to be able to hear that it's not here today. I'd like to mention 2 things that before we get into specifically the homeless issue, if you would please update us on. Could you give us a status report on Capitol Police's move into the Wright and Ferguson property? And also, could you give us an update on the dispatch calls, how they are being handled right now if someone calls 911 as far as Capitol Police versus the City of Jackson Police Department? We thank you very much for being here today.
Yes, sir. Thank you, and thank you to the board and for allowing me to be here today. As always, thank you all for your support of Capitol Police and everything that y'all have done to help make Capitol Police the success that it is today. We moved into the Wright and Ferguson, the smaller building behind. Everybody thinks the Wright and Ferguson is the big French Tudor building. Well, the one behind that is the one that we're currently occupying. It's been outstanding to be able to be in there and have our own space and actually have more of Capitol Police together in one building. It's really going great. It is, it was planned. That building was planned before I came on board with Capitol Police. So it's a little smaller than what we needed right now, but we're hoping that with the big building that we're going to be able to have the room we need to bring everybody under one roof. It's from what I'm understanding from DFA, they're no longer going to put the court in the big building. So that's going to give us even more room within that building. They're going to keep the court system down around Jefferson Street for now. They've got some expansions planned for that complex down there on the building that is adjacent to the one where they're currently occupying. I believe it's on the west side of the building, just west of where they're currently at. It's going to be right there on the same property, though. But as far as the Wright and Ferguson building, I'm hearing that they're projected to start on the inside of the building early 2027. So it's going to take some time. They're on the outside. They're making some structural changes and shoring up the building on the outside, trying to make sure they get all that together right now. But they're hoping to move towards the inside and planning phases probably in 26 and start on the actual construction on the inside of the building in the beginning of 27. As far as our 911 system, it is up and going now. Now, we are still experiencing some difficulties with getting calls directly but it is on the wireless network. It has to do with the towers and the geofencing and making sure that when the caller calls on a cell phone that it hits the proper tower and then gets routed to the proper location. From what I'm hearing and from what I understand, that's not a problem that's unique to Capitol Police. However, with building our system and having the challenges that other folks are seeing as well, it has kind of compounded the issue with Capitol Police. We are getting our calls. Those calls are being transferred from Jackson Police Department to us. They're doing an outstanding job of getting calls transferred to us quickly. Last time I checked, when JPD was receiving one of our calls, they were transferring them within the first 3 to 4 minutes. Now, obviously, if we're getting them directly, that's even better. Capitol Police's response time right now is averaging about 4.5 to 5 minutes. So that's from the time we get the call to the time that we arrive on scene. It's 4.5 to 5 minutes. Obviously, if it's taking 4 minutes to get the call transferred from JPD, and I'm saying 4 minutes is an average, there's times where they're pretty quick and there's times where they take a little bit longer. Obviously that adds to our response time, and every second counts in this profession. So top priority is getting those calls, those problems solved and getting our calls directly. We are working with Motorola and Entrata on that to get those, and AT&T as well, to get those problems, those issues resolved. But like I said, the issues that we're experiencing right now with the cell phones is something that's not unique to just us. So it's not something that, hey, just Capitol Police is in the building phase of a 911 system. It's issues that we're seeing across the state. So that's going really well. Now, as far as the topic at hand with the homelessness, we are currently working on, I just approved a draft for our Safe Solicitation Act, the permit process for the panhandling. You mentioned panhandling. We have been seeing a decrease in that activity. However, it has started to pick back up a little bit. We are starting to see County Line Road, Lakeland and Ridgewood, St. Dominic right there at Lakeland. We're starting to see that kind of pick up a little bit, and we're trying to stay on top of that. Our stance has been, while we do not have a permit process in place at the moment, we are asking people to move on and advising them that it is illegal to solicit donations and money and services without a permit. We do understand that there is no way for them to get a permit through Capitol Police. So we're not enforcing anything as far as criminally, and we're not putting any kind of enforcement efforts into it other than asking them to move on and go somewhere else. Now, we have also, it's my understanding that the city of Jackson has had an ordinance for solicitation permits that has been in place for a while. So we are referring people to the city of Jackson, to City Hall, to speak to them about possibly their ordinance process or their permit process through their ordinance that they already have in existence. Now, it's my understanding that their ordinance doesn't necessarily pertain to panhandling and, I guess, non-organizational donations. So that may not be an option for them either, but we've been kind of offering that as an option. Like I said, I did just get done reviewing a draft of the permit and application that we will start implementing hopefully as soon as December 1st. We're hoping to go ahead and get that implemented starting December 1st. We are also seeing, it was the same thing we have been seeing, a lot of people setting up camps and, for lack of a better word, residency under the overpasses. A lot of the community groups have been doing an outstanding job in the beautification of those areas and trying to upkeep those areas and maintain them. And we have been trying our best to work with those community leaders and those community organizations to assist them with those efforts. Whenever we receive those calls, we go and we remove those individuals from those areas. What we're looking at whenever we remove those individuals, we don't generally have a problem with them leaving the areas. They understand that they're not allowed to be there. One of the issues that we are running into is if it's not a highway overpass, like for example, Canton Mart and 55 right there where they put the new fences up. They had a problem with a little encampment there. We're able to get MDOT involved there because that's basically under their jurisdiction where they bring their trailers or their dump trucks and they load all that stuff up for garbage. If they don't take it with them, they load it up for garbage. Well, Capitol Police doesn't have any kind of apparatus like that to be able to do removal of camps. We don't have a trailer, a truck, or anything like that where we could just throw a bunch of stuff in there. So anything outside of the jurisdiction of MDOT, we're kind of limited on our resources on how well we can clean up those areas once we remove the people. So what we're starting to see is when we remove people from those areas, they tend to kind of migrate back to those areas, and we end up removing them again. Another thing, when we remove people from areas, of course, they don't have anywhere to go. We're displacing them from their camps where they've been setting up residency, and they end up wandering through the neighborhoods and loitering at businesses and things of that nature, and simply just because they don't have anywhere else to go. We have met with, or I say we have met, we're working with Fondren Renaissance and a couple other community groups that have talked to different organizations. I believe one of them is based out of Texas that has a program that they implement and they've been successful with. That program is it's going to entail a pretty big financial ask for that program to get implemented, because what that program is designed to do is take these individuals from the street and reincorporate them into normal everyday society with the services needed to include housing, getting them into the workforce again, and kind of keeping a steady monitor on them. Like I said, these programs have shown to be effective in other cities that have had high rates of homelessness, but it is a pretty big financial ask for the state of Mississippi when you're talking about trying to bring these these entities in to do the same thing here. We're seeing less of the homeless issues during the day just wandering through the city. However, it's still there. We are seeing an uptick in our auto burglaries. We are seeing an uptick in some of our business burglaries, and we are finding that some of those instances, while not all of those incidents, but some, are being committed by the homeless population. They are breaking into vehicles, they're breaking into businesses, and that's something that when those individuals are found, it is dealt with on an enforcement measure. One of our obstacles that we're facing right now is where to house these individuals when they do commit crimes. I will say that Sheriff Jones has been a huge help. He has never turned down Capitol Police for any assistance, whether that be on the enforcement side or housing individuals in his jail. However, he is limited in what he can do with the jail at this time due to the space that he has available. So that's something that we're going to have to look at, is as these incidents continue to occur, where we're going to be able to house them once he gets to the point where he cannot accept people anymore. Outside of that, Capitol Police is sitting at about 150 officers. We're slated to have approximately 180. So we are currently in a constant phase of trying to hire officers. It is a slow process. Our applicant pool is not as big as it used to be. We are also putting an emphasis on quality over quantity. So we're taking our time and making sure that we have a very thorough hiring process on the individuals we do bring in. Right now, our hiring process takes anywhere from a month and a half to 2 months. It's a slow process, but it's necessary. What we've seen is while we haven't grown significantly in numbers, we're growing significantly in efficiency. which tells us that we're hiring the type of officer, the quality officer, the professional officer that we need to be hiring and putting out there on the streets to serve this community. And at that time, I believe that's all I've brought with me today. So I'll open it up for any questions that y'all might have.
I'd like to start. Could you explain the cooperation among Capitol Police and Jackson's Police Department on an incident that occurs inside the CCID versus one that occurs outside the CCID? Your participation in those versus who's responsible for the first call, or if one entity can't make it, does the other one back you up?
Absolutely. So the way that we've been handling calls within the CCID, whenever we need Jackson Police Department's assistance or Hinds County Sheriff's Department's assistance, they are more than willing to come assist. Anytime we have a big special event, just like this last weekend, or my time's getting away from me, a couple weekends ago, the Folk Festival, we had JPD, Hinds County, Capitol Police, MHP, other members of Department of Public Safety, Wildlife, Fish. We have multiple agencies that come and help with the fair, with Dixie National, any kind of large scale event. They've always been more than willing to assist. They've been a huge asset to Capitol Police in those events. On a normal day-to-day basis, we don't have to call on Jackson Police Department a whole lot, but when we do, they're always willing to assist. What we do also is when we go out, when we do operations, anytime we have any sort of street crime suppression operation, any kind of warrants operation, any kind of special auto burglary suppression detail or anything like that, we always try to make sure we include our partnerships, JPD, Hinds County, in those operations, and make sure that they know what we're doing, where we're at, give them the opportunity to come in and jump in with us. Because what we're seeing is a lot of our criminal element is also their criminal element. So it's always in our best interest to work together. Now, when you talk about outside the CCID, we've had a long-standing understanding with our dispatch, our communication center, that when we get a call, even if it's not in the CCID, we're going to respond. We're not going to volley calls back and forth between JPD and Capitol Police because, hey, this isn't ours, this is y'all's, that kind of thing. That only hurts the caller, the complainant, the victim at that point. So we're going to respond to those calls. Now, obviously, some of those calls may be so far out of our district that it may not be, we may not have a chance to respond by the time JPD can. But we are more than willing to assist JPD in fielding those calls right outside the CCID, and we have been doing that. Once we get to those calls, if it's a major incident that we feel like JPD needs to take over, then we will notify their team and let them know. And they've always shown up and they've always taken over at that point. And we remain on the scene to assist with anything we can assist with at that point. So I would say overall, the partnership with JPD, Capitol Police has been working very well. It's something that we're constantly working on to improve upon and get to be a better partnership. But it's been working great for us so far.
Great. Members of the committee? Mr. Blunt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chief, for coming this morning and giving us an update. I read the governor's executive budget recommendation that came out on Friday, which mentions the Capitol Police, and he's asking the legislature to restore some of the cuts that your department sustained and also to increase some funding. Could you talk about what you need us to do to support you in terms of money in the upcoming session?
Yes, sir. So that money was pulled from Capitol Police out of our salary line item budget, and understandably so. Like I said, we're moving at a slow pace of these 30 openings that we have, of being able to actually fill them. However, we are gaining momentum. We are seeing an uptick in our process to where we're getting better and more applicants. We're also incorporating a DPS Academy that I have, I believe, 8 or 9 members of Capitol Police that are new to the force that will be going to the DPS Academy as well. So we expect to have those joining us in hitting the streets as soon as June or July, as soon as that academy's over. So with that being said, we are asking that we can get those funds back. That way that we can continue the hiring process, continue to bring on good qualified applicants. Because like I said, right now we're at 150. The way our budget looks right now, we would have to stop short of 180 with the budget we have now. We would have significantly short of 180. We wouldn't have much more room to grow, and we desperately need to grow. We need to be able to cover the areas. My goal is to always have a very visible presence within the CCID. That's something that is absolutely necessary in the city of Jackson and in the CCID, is to be visible. While we're doing a good job of that, our officers are being ran from call to call to call. You know, there's days where our call volume is 300 calls for service in a day. And when you're talking about a shift of 9 to 11 officers, two shifts of 9 to 11 officers, 300 calls for service, that's quite a bit. That's them literally running from call to call, barely even getting time to stop for a meal, for lunch, for break. They're being run hard out there. So we desperately need more support, not just for the visible aspect of deterring the criminal element, but also to take some of the load off the officers we have that are just frankly just being overworked. I would like to be able to put more effort into our presence at community events and things of that nature, be able to put more effort towards the homelessness and vagrancy issues. Unfortunately, right now, whenever people call needing us to be present at certain events, we can say, hey, we're going to do the best we can, but our call volume dictates how long we can stay anywhere. We have to answer these calls. And like I said, we've been extremely successful, 4.5 to 5 minute response time. That's an outstanding response time for any law enforcement agency to have. And I'm very proud of the job that our team is putting out there, but they're going to need some relief. They're going to need manpower on the streets to assist with that and keep that call volume down.
I'm sorry, no.
Got one last question? Mr. Norwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chief Luckett. In regards to the homeless population downtown, do you see it as being feasible? I know as far as your certified officers, it would be relatively expensive. But if there's a step between your certified officers and the general population, general public, if you will, that could intercede more or less to help move the populations from the homeless population from where they are to shelters within a prescribed area and only engage the certified officers as needed. Could you envision something like that working to help expedite and, be more powerful to the population?
Yes, sir. So just so I make sure I'm clear on your question, are you asking me if Capitol Police employing somebody that's more of a social worker type level to deal with those issues? Or are you talking about bringing in an outside entity to work with in partnership with Capitol Police?
Probably it would be bringing someone in to work in partnership. Okay. That would basically, and I'm not sure, who, but someone that deals with the population that would help, and that you would only be involved to the point that you need to beyond what that agency or that entity would be able to do.
Yes, sir. So my vision for Capitol Police's involvement in the homelessness, the issues that we see with the homelessness, is that we could have a group of individuals who are trained and CIT trained and to deal with these types of issues, because the numbers show that a large majority of our homeless population also suffers from mental health illness and also chemical dependency a lot. So we need a more well-rounded officer to be able to deal with that population. They don't necessarily have to be an officer, but it's always good to have on the scene dealing with somebody who could potentially at any moment be a danger. It's always good to have an officer there to deal with that situation. What we're running into now is when you're dealing with an individual, when we're getting calls, and we get a lot of them with a vagrant or a homeless person in a certain area, suspicious person, which usually ends up being a vagrant or homeless person, that's tying up officers for anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. And the reason why is they're trying to find resources for these individuals. These individuals have not created a situation where jail is an option. They're not being arrested. They're just for lack of a better term, they're just in bad circumstances. They're homeless. And, I understand the concern from the public, and it's certainly something that we're going to respond to, but we need to make sure that our officers are well trained to respond to that and realize that this is not just an issue of, well, let's find them a shelter and put them in it. Because the truth is, a lot of the people that you see out here on the streets that are homeless, they don't want to be in shelters. There are beds that are open and available in shelters, and they don't want to be there. Until somebody wants help, you can't force them into help. Now, when you talk about working in partnership with organizations, I would like to have a small, or when I say small, 10 or 15 officers assigned to a community engagement group. And we kind of have the bones of that right now. Unfortunately, with our shortage of patrol officers, we're not able to really bolster that a whole lot. But I would like to have a community engagement group of officers that are CIT certified, that are well versed in the mental health field and the resources available to them. Mobile crisis team, they've been a huge help to us. They've come when we've called. To have a team that can work with any kind of outside partnership and that just brings in more resources would be a huge asset for Capitol Police and the city of Jackson. And that would be my vision, is to have a group of officers who will handle the calls that patrol is having to handle now. Because at the end of the day, if your house is being broken into, or you've got somebody, something going on at your house, an emergency situation, and my officer is tied up talking to a homeless person for 45 minutes, that doesn't help you. So if I could be more efficient with my resources and have officers that were assigned to handle those issues, work with third-party organizations, non-government entities, work with the resources that are out there, be well-versed and well-trained in mental health issues and things of that nature, that would be a huge win for everybody, to be able to have something, a partnership with any kind of entity. And even I've thought about even bringing in a civilian element to work in that division. It doesn't necessarily have to be an officer. Like I said, I would prefer that officers be on site and working with those individuals, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a certified officer that's in that division as well. But the thing that we have to realize about these situations is they could go south at any moment. People that have mental health issues, people that are coming down from a chemical high, or people that are on a chemical high, they can change in a millisecond. So it is always good to have that sworn officer element there.
Thank you so much, Chief Luckey. We're going to have to move on. We got 4 of the people that are already here to present. We sure thank you for your time today, and we look forward to getting with you closer to the session begin to go over that requested budget items that you're working on now. Yes, thank you very much for your service.
Thank you all.
Next is Rex Baker. Would you come forward, please, Rex? I've known Rex for over 40 years. We were at Ole Miss together. Many of you might recall he was a very famous news anchor on one of our local affiliates. Was that the late 80s, Rex? Early 90s? 90s. And Rex is now the executive director of the Gateway Rescue Mission. I have actually toured the Gateway Rescue Mission with my wife and was so impressed with what they've done. We made a nice contribution. I believe in the work they do. Rex, would you please, in your talk, make sure that you explain to people, because some people have never been to the facility, first off, what lodging you offer, what meals you offer, and then your religious services that y'all offer as well to people willing to participate.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here today at Gateway Rescue Mission. We have We do have a feeding program. We serve 3 meals a day. A big meal is at lunch, and so we see a lot of people coming in from around the community. Many are homeless that come in to eat with us. We have an emergency overnight shelter for men. And in that shelter, we have 40 beds, but we have 20 set aside for men just coming in seeking a bed for the night. We have the other 20 set aside for men in our long-term addiction recovery program. We call this our New Life program. And we do believe that it's important to introduce a spiritual element into people's lives when they've been out there, and they need that foundation. So that's part of what we do. A good number of our, what we call our program residents, these are people that are in it's a 6-month residential recovery program. Good number of those come from the correctional system. Some come off the streets. Some are referred by family. But I want to take just a few minutes to address what we really see in the homeless population in Jackson. And this is primarily what I'm sharing with you is what I've seen with my own eyes. I haven't crunched the numbers nationally. We started noticing 2 or 3 years ago, I guess, that there was an increase in homelessness in Jackson. Where's that coming from? I started seeing new homeless people. Day was when we knew a lot of the people, knew their names, knew who they were, knew some of their stories. But now we're seeing a new group of homeless in Jackson that we didn't know who they were. So we started hearing about homeless camps, started seeing people on the street corners. So we started going out, and we go out each week, one morning a week, to some of the camps that are sort of down there in the Highway 80, I-20 corridor. And what I'm seeing from that, and from a lot of the people that come to our mission as well, number one, rampant mental illness. Most of the chronically homeless will present with some sort of a mental disorder. Bipolar, anxiety, schizophrenia, those types of things. And pretty much epidemic drug addiction. A significant increase in the street homeless, what we're seeing over the last several years, is kind of based in these homeless camps. And the drug that's driving that is crystal meth. If you remember back some years ago, crystal meth was basically the main ingredient in it that got people high was ephedrine or Sudafed. And it was a party drug. It made people social. It made them talkative. And the Mississippi legislature did this. Governmental entities did this, where they came in and made it hard to get Sudafed. And it would be cooked in these local labs off in the sticks somewhere. And meth was sort of the drug of the rural white people. Crack cocaine was the drug of the urban Black people, and you didn't see much deviation from that. Crack addicts didn't do heroin. Heroin addicts didn't do, whatever. They stuck to their drug. But something happened a few years back when they couldn't get Sudafed anymore. They changed the way they made meth. Started using it, a process that's called phenyl-2-propanone. That's the main ingredient in it. It's short for, the slang term is P2P meth. P2P meth can be made from any number of household chemicals. It's like, cyanide, lye, mercury, hydrochloric acid, ammonia, kerosene. So you can't outlaw all this stuff because it's used in a lot of legitimate things, but they take it and they cook it. Most of it is now made in Mexico and shipped in. It's cheap. And we've seen it come in and sort of replace a lot of the other drugs that were being used. It is potent, it's more pure than old meth, and it's also more toxic. But what we see is that whereas the Sudafed meth made people social, now it rot their teeth out and ruin their lives, but it made them want to party. This P2P meth drives people into a deep paranoia. They want to isolate. They hallucinate. They think people are out to get them. They see things that aren't there. And so when you hear it said that a lot of the homeless people don't want to go to shelters, one of the reasons it is because they're in that kind of a mental state. This stuff eats their brains up. There's a little bitty part of the brain that controls urges and cravings. Both meth and cocaine pretty much destroy that. So it really turns from what I've seen people into sort of a catatonic state. Sometimes a walking zombie is one way we put it sometimes. But we have encountered people out on the streets and in the camps that were, I remember seeing one guy who just passed out on the sidewalk, broad daylight, middle of summer, burning sidewalk, and we couldn't wake him up because they get high on this stuff and they stay up 2 or 3 days. And then when they crash, they're just out of it. It makes them very fidgety. I saw a woman one time about a year ago, right at where River Hills Country Club is, right on the corner there of Lakeland and Ridgewood, in an area of town you would not have seen her there 10 years ago. But she was just picking up little sticks and stuff like that on the ground. That's what meth makes them do. It makes people collect garbage. And so when you go into the camps, there is a lot of, they're very unsanitary. So that's what we're seeing. We're going out and trying to get to know some of these people, trying to get them to come in and get some help. There's one example I'll share with you is a guy named Mike who is in a camp down just off I-20. Mike lives in his vehicle, but his vehicle's all wrecked and torn up. The windshield's battered in. There'll normally be a lot of flies in it. Mike's had all his toes amputated. They'll bleed. And he's not in good shape. And we've begged him, Mike, come in, let us help you. And he won't do it. He'll say, they'll steal my vehicle. And that's what we hear a lot. Come, let us help you. And they'll say, no, I can't come in because if I do, they'll steal my stuff. Their stuff is garbage. But in their mind, it's important. So that's kind of what that's not my civic club speech. I don't put a lot of that in the newsletters, but that's what's really going on out there from what we're seeing in the overall uptick of the homeless population in Jackson. And with that.
Okay, we've got about 5 minutes for questions. Senator Blunt said he wanted to know about solutions.
Thank you very much, Rex, and the work y'all do. Is there anything that you would ask the legislature to do to help you and organizations like you with this problem? Is there anything that we're not doing that we could be doing that would help with this situation?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. There is one thing that we have noticed is that in Mississippi, the old models don't work anymore. Used to say, well, people have to hit bottom and then they'll get help. These people have blown through bottom. And at the end of the day, it's if they don't choose to come in, there's nothing we can do about it. In Florida, they have what is called the Baker Act. The Baker Act is a law that allows if law enforcement or doctors, whoever see someone that is a threat to themselves, a threat to someone else, or they're unable to take care of themselves, you can apply and get a 3-day commitment, involuntary commitment, to bring that person in and have them evaluated, 72 hours. And it is a tool where if they encounter someone in that state, they at least have something that they can apply for and do. And I would respectfully like to ask the Mississippi legislature, the Senate, to consider looking at something like the Baker Act as a model to see if we could do something like that here in Mississippi. We would love to work with law enforcement, with mental health agencies, and when we identify somebody like that, having a tool where we could actually.
Where are they taken, Rex? Where's the facility that they're taken to be evaluated?
I don't know that yet. He's talking about in Florida?
Yes.
It's like taking them in for a mental health evaluation, where kind of a workup, where medical. I mean, there's a lot of most of these people have severe health problems as well.
Maybe you can help us get a copy of that draft legislation, or we can get our staff to research it, and maybe we can get some good ideas from that.
I would be glad to be part, love to be part
Rex
of that.
Baker Act?
Hmm?
Is it the Rex Baker Act? Or just
I can't, it was passed in 1971. I was about 9 or 10 years old at that time, so I don't think it's named after me, but
Well, thank you for being with us today, and thank you for the great work y'all are doing on Gallatin Street. As I said, I've been to your facility. It's certainly, if anybody in this audience toured that facility today, you'd be glad to give a donation, because you might want to keep them on, hopefully keep them on your list end of the year on very worthwhile places that you can contribute some money for Christmas time. Thank you for being with us so much, Rick. Thank you. All right, another great organization. Nicholas Spradley is the director of Shower Power. I happen to know, Nicholas, I don't believe I've met you, but I know the founder, Teresa Frankenberger, and Cindy Britton very well, and I understand you work with them. And it's another organization, because I've known them for so long, that I've been led to give some money to, because I know the great work y'all do. If you would please give us a summary on how y'all got started. And I know the mission has differed from how it originally started, and tell us everything you're doing now, please. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here and be able to speak with you guys about what we do at Shower Power and what we're trying to move forward in the future with. Teresa is our founder. She founded Shower Power about 6 years ago. She is a real estate agent. She drives all around town, and she befriends all the homeless people at the stoplights, and ran into a guy on Lakeland. His name is Benny, and she asked him how he took a shower. He pointed towards the gas station, showed her a hose that he uses to plug up to the sink inside the gas station. And she walked away from that day with Benny thinking, how can I help him get a shower with more dignity and space and privacy? So she went home, talked to a few people, decided to buy a bread truck, outfitted it with a shower, took it back to Benny after it was done. It took about a year to complete it. And he wouldn't get in the bread truck. He wouldn't get into the shower. He was just too scared, I guess. So she asked him, well, what am I going to do with this truck? He said, take it downtown. People downtown, there's plenty of homeless people down there that need showers. So she did. Once she got downtown and realized all, people were taking showers. At this point, we were one of the first around to have kind of a mobile shower unit and be able to show up at any given time. Then we started to see a need with clothes. So if you take a shower, you need clothes, you need hygiene. She wanted to give them a snack so they could be able to have something to eat until the next time she saw them. So all this stuff evolved, and we had this little bread truck. We decided that we would just stationary park the bread truck at a building that we bought off South Commerce Street and open up a bigger operation so we could house our clothes and our food pantry, all this stuff. So within the last 6 years, we've expanded tremendously to this big brick and mortar place that has all these great things that the homeless people can stop by. We just do it once a week on Fridays from 9 to 12. We have all them come out where they can fill out clothing order forms, get something to eat. We have a different restaurant that caters to us every week. They come out and set up a huge buffet style thing so everybody can come out and enjoy a good hot meal. We're running at about 160 people right now that are showing up every Friday. And we've also, all of our volunteers are nurses or CEOs or just people that have been really invested in our community and other aspects of their life that are now our volunteers and board members. So these people are very well connected, that they have pivoted us into different directions, one of them being IDs and birth certificates. So we have a circle of CPAs that come in every Friday to volunteer their time, to do all the paperwork, to make sure if you want a new ID or a birth certificate, you get that, and Shower Power covers the cost, so you can get that at no cost to you, because we all know that to do anything in life, you need the 3 major keys to unlock the door: a social security card, birth certificate, and an ID. The social security card, we can't handle right now. That's just not something that is allowed for us to do, but we will also pay for them to go get a social security card so we can get them into a job, we can get them into housing, we can get a social security check started, whatever it may be, whatever the goal may be for that person. So with our building now, we're looking even to expand even further. We're hoping to we have a shelter. We do a temporary shelter for inclement weather. And that shelter is about 120 people will come stay with us at Shepherd's Gym. The mayor is so gracious enough to give us the keys to the gym, and donate it for the week or for the couple days that we need it. So we haul all the stuff from our place over to the shelter and take care of it there. Now we're able to hopefully have a shelter in the near future right there on the property where Shower Power is. So we don't have to move from one place to the other, and we can have it permanently set up. That's just one of the cool projects that we're looking into doing right now. I heard a little bit earlier about the new group of homelessness coming in. That's so true. We're seeing that too, and it's so disheartening. We're seeing new people every Friday come through Shower Power. We try to get to know people to figure out where their needs are. A lot of it is mental health. A lot of it is chemical dependency. We try to identify what's going on so that we could be able to help them maybe get medication through St. Dominic has partnered with us to give free medications for most medications, to get people leveled out and get them to think clearly and be able to take their life in a direction that's positive so that they're not a burden on society around Jackson. You know, I hear that quite often is a lot of people are just very concerned for their businesses and cars, and I get that. So we're trying to help address that as well through different medications and different rehabs. We have people that show up to Shower Power now every Friday. We put at least one person, sometimes it's 2 or 3 people in rehab. You know, we'll get them into Harbor House, we'll get them into Brentwood if they have insurance. That's always a big thing. We have a lot of people that are wanting the help, but then by the time the help comes around, they're nowhere to be found. They don't have cell phones. They don't have an address. It's hard to find them. So we are thankful with Harbor House and a couple others for being able to get these people in immediately so we can plant that seed to hopefully see them grow. And we've had some pretty cool success stories the last couple months, you know, that are just so wonderful for us to see. I mean, we just are elated when people actually progress to their highest and best potential. Another huge thing that we're having an issue with right now is the food. We give out snack bags every week, but we're having families. We're seeing a lot more homeless families come through that are needing food and diapers and formula. But thankfully, with my position as director and connecting with the other directors around town, like Jill Buckley at Stew Pod and Stacy Howard at Grace House, we have these different resources available. So something that we may not be able to help them with, we can refer that out, you know, and it's become more of a resource center too for a lot of people, which is highly complimentary to us. You know, we really pride ourselves in making sure that when that person comes to us with whatever they want to do, that we help them see that through with whatever that costs. Shower Power is based on private donations, which is good and bad at the same time. It's good because people love us. They get behind us and they push us forward with their donations and volunteering. But it's also, you know, we don't ever know where we are at month to month. You know, one month could be great, one month could not be great. So we just try to move forward with everybody in a way that can help the community, that can help the businesses in the community, help the homeless people, and everybody just work together, show some love, and see what we can do. You know, we're part of the Jackson Rising thing right now with Liz, and we really enjoy that with the mayor that's put together. We're really actively trying to figure out what we can do to solve the homeless situation, but there really isn't ever a solution. It's just how can we alleviate the problems these individuals are facing in order to get them where they need to be. That's pretty much all I have for you guys today. I really hope you all come out and see us any Friday, like I said, 9 to 12. Come out and volunteer with us, check us out, take a tour. I invite you anytime you want. We would love to have you guys, and thank you so much for letting me speak today.
Nicholas, we have a little extra time for questions. I have 2, please. You mentioned your source of funding is private funds. My first question is, have you looked into applying through the United Way for funding? And the second question I have is, you also mentioned your shortage of food. Do you have any relationship whatsoever with the Gleaners who make food available to the organizations?
Yes, we've looked into United Way. I don't know. This is my 4th month as executive director, so a lot of the stuff that we're working on right now is immediate things. But I do know that we have looked into United Way before. I think we're going to continue to do that. And Gleaners, absolutely. So we actually tomorrow, a place did a food drive for us, a church, and they're donating 6 pallets of canned goods. So we're about to have more than we know what to do with. Again, it's what I was kind of referring to with 1 month great and 1 month not so great. We never know. You know, this gentleman called, had a gracious donation, and here we are. So tomorrow we'll be back full again for a temporary time until we run back out.
Members of the committee? Senator Blunt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for coming, Nicholas. Can you identify for us anything that the state and the legislature should be doing that we're not doing, or where the state can improve the services that the state is obligated to provide to help you and serve the people that you work with?
Absolutely. Thank you for your question. The first thing that comes to mind is affordable housing. I know it's kind of been addressed. When I say affordable housing, it would be great to have free housing, but I know that, you know, that's a hard thing to do. One of the biggest problems I have on a daily basis is when people are receiving a check and they want housing. So if you don't receive some kind of check every month and you want housing, it's easier to get them into certain places. But once they are receiving a check and they have that certain amount of income, then the place that they want to move into takes the funds from that check and it leaves them pretty much with nothing to live on. So they're choosing to stay outside and collect their check for 700 or 900. I forget what it is. It's not a lot. But just more affordable housing and options for people that are super low income. There's a lot of homeless people out here that do get checks. And I would appreciate, you know, some kind of help with the housing situation.
So they have a bank account.
No. So
what do they do when they get they have a post office box?
So we receive mail for homeless people at Shower Power.
Right.
I came before I was at Shower Power. I worked for Heinz Behavioral, the Bridge, and they also do as well. So there, a lot of these checks are coming to these two places where people pick them up and then take them to a liquor store or to wherever they can to cash them. And then they cash the check and do whatever with it. It is my impression, I believe that here soon, all the checks have to go into a bank account. I was under the impression that within the next month or two, there will be no hard paper checks anymore. I could be wrong on that. I just was told that right before I came in here. We had a couple people that received their checks. We were told to get bank accounts for. So.
And you say that if you get a check for $700 or $900 a month, that you're no longer eligible for housing?
You are eligible, but they usually take most of your paycheck for the housing that you're in.
Who provides that housing and what sets that requirement?
All different kinds. So I know there's one on State Street's 865, or I can't remember the exact address of the place, but they take people that get a check, and after they pay their rent, it's $215 is what they have left to live on for a month. And so that presented a problem. A lot of the people that we had referred there, they ended up just leaving because they needed more money to live on, and they went back to being homeless.
Thank you.
Mr. Norwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned the 120 persons. Was that a facility?
Meals. The number of meals, 120 meals?
Yeah, so when we do our temporary shelter for inclement weather, we're allowed 120. I think it's actually 100, but some people come, I think it's 120, the mayor said was the max.
And what was the location there?
Shepherd's Gym, Highway 80. Yep, it is for right now. We just got finished ordering everything for that. And so we're ready for it. The next time we have any bit of inclement weather or it freezes, we will be opening.
Okay. I just want to make sure, because that is my district. I just wanted to make sure. So I'll
Yes.
be in contact with you on that.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Okay, Nicholas, thank you so much for being with us today. Please tell Teresa and Cindy hello from Walter Michelle. They're good friends of mine, and it's a wonderful service y'all are providing. We thank you for your leadership.
Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you.
All right, Liz Brister, are you ready to come see us? Liz has had a wonderful career with Entergy, and now the Downtown Jackson Partners is fortunate to have her as the president of the organization. And Senator Blunt and I met with her last week. And first, might be good to explain, Liz, how the Downtown Jackson Partners is funded and the parameters of your district boundary.
Sure.
And then also, I know we discussed homelessness with you last week, and we had the benefit of Chief Lucky and also Rex Baker, and any correspondence you've had with those organizations that you feel like legislation could help. That's what we'd love to hear from you today.
Great, thank you. Yes, Chief Lucky actually talked about a program in Texas that I'm going to cover in my statement to give you some more information about that. Downtown Jackson Partners is a business improvement district. It was established through legislation, and our boundaries are George Street to the north, so just right behind where we are here. And then to the south, it is Court Street behind the Mississippi Museum of Art. To the east, it's Jefferson Street, and to the west, the train station, so Mill Street. And how we're funded is property owners in this business improvement district, when they are assessed for their taxes, they pay an additional millage that goes to Downtown Jackson Partners. So that's how we manage to do what we do. And I'm excited to be here and excited that we get the support that we get from you, from the legislature and the governor. And it is vitally important to what we're trying to do. We've been busy working with Mayor Horn and the new administration to improve our city. We want to do our part, and we feel like we're playing a big role right now in giving downtown Jackson the spark that it needs and really starting that revitalization process. We need a beautiful capital city because people that are doing business in this state, they're coming here for economic projects from Boonville to Biloxi. They're going to probably come to Jackson first to meet with you, the legislature, or to meet with our governor. And these deals can sometimes be very close, and we need to put our best foot forward so that we can secure business and prosperity for the people of Mississippi. So it is really important, the role that downtown plays, not just for Jackson, but for our whole state. And just to give you a few examples before we talk about homelessness, because I know that's why we're here today, I want to mention some of the things we've done since I started in February of this year. We've got some new lighting in downtown. It continues to be a challenging issue, but we're working very hard to increase lighting. We've got some newly paved streets. Thank you, Mayor Horn. Got a lot of our streets paved right before the National Folk Festival. We're working on new landscaping, signage, all the sort of things that you might expect a capital city to have, and to highlight the investments you guys have already made through our 2 Mississippi museums, through Thalia Mara, through the planetarium. There are just so many positive things that you've already invested in, and we need to really make sure that we're putting our best foot forward for the people who work here, your state employees, residents of the city, and tourists who come here. Capital City Police, we heard from Chief Lucky earlier, that's been a tremendous asset to downtown Jackson, and I want to thank you for that too. Historic Smith Park, which is our central green space, has recently received a facelift, and we've had a number of events there this year, such as the Summer and Fall Series, which brought live music and food trucks. And I've got some breaking news. I promise I'm getting to the subject matter, but you're the first to hear today that Jackson has been awarded a Levitt Music Series Award of $40,000. It's renewable for 2 more years, so $120,000 total, to continue to provide free live music in Smith Park. And the reason I mention that is it's kind of like where Jackson is right now and how hungry Jackson is for its moment and for success. There were 300 applications for the Levitt Award nationally. Cities all over America, cities like Austin, Miami, Chicago. Jackson was one of 100 finalists, so from 300 to 100. And then we had this public voting campaign that the Levitt Fund asked us to do. We finished in the top 10, number 8 in the public voting campaign. And then we found out today from 300 applications, Jackson is now one of 26 awards. So y'all, we're top 10. That's exciting news, and it's kind of a change of the trajectory of what people think about Jackson. And I hope it shows how hard we're working to really make this a capital city we can all be proud of. But there's a lot more to be done, and I know we're here today to talk about homelessness, and it does have a significant impact on downtown Jackson. It is one of our biggest challenges. And I know that all of you are compassionate individuals. We've heard from some wonderful groups that are doing work on this. And I know you're seeking a solution to it. We want to be a partner in that. But I also want to say that we need to help rebuild downtown Jackson's reputation as the commercial heartbeat of this state, the seat of our government. It needs to be a work environment that provides quality experiences for state employees and for business. And that's why we have got to tackle the issue of the unhoused. I'm excited to share a solution that Chief Luckey mentioned, and I also heard him mention it when he testified before the House Revitalization Committee. I found out about this solution when I was attending the International Downtown Association Conference in Cleveland, Ohio this year. And a former City of Houston employee who helped the mayor of Houston create this program to rapidly rehouse individuals living on the streets has now left the City of Houston and created a consulting group, Clutch Consulting Group. They are based in Houston. Clutch helps cities like Jackson use federal ARP funds, American Rescue Plan funds, which are almost depleted, but we do still have some in Jackson, and other choice housing funds that come to our states every year to lease apartments for 12 months. Individuals are given an alternative to congregate sheltering. I think we heard some of our former speakers say that many individuals do not, or they resist going to a shelter. This is a different alternative. It is an independent house, place to live in an apartment. And they receive wraparound services for 12 months to help mitigate health, employment, family crisis, substance abuse, all of the things you've heard mentioned today. I think we've heard a lot about how difficult that is, but I want to share some statistics with you from Clutch that are working in other cities. Recently, they did this initiative in Dallas, Texas, and the mayor challenged them to rehouse 100 individuals in 100 days. They actually rehoused 108 individuals in 100 days. And of those, only 30 required more complex medical services than the program could provide. That's a 75% success rate. So 75% of the individuals who were given independent housing in an apartment with wraparound services were able to stay there for the full 12 months. Now, what they're doing during those 12 months is trying to figure out what happens on the 13th month. And that 13th month might be getting ready to work if they're employable, if they can get some job training. It might be arranging financial things like disability checks or things that maybe they have not been able to receive because they've been living on the streets. The apartment is an individual, no roommate situation. When they get to the 13th month, they may not be able to afford that, so they work on roommates or other subsidies that might help them afford their apartment. All the things you might imagine, certainly substance abuse, providing medication, all of those things to stabilize the individual. So let me give you some more data. So since 2020, which is when they launched this program in Houston, here's some of the data around chronic homelessness and the impact it's had on these cities. So in Dallas, which they started a little later than Houston, it was like 2021, unsheltered homelessness is down 28%. So almost a third through this program. And that doesn't include just the 100 and 108 days. This is years of working on this. Houston is down 33%. And Houston's kind of considered one of the gold standards in dealing with these challenging issues. That's part of why Clutch Consulting Group is there. Oklahoma City the best statistics, down 43% over 4 years. 43% of the homeless population that was chronically homeless now has a permanent self-sufficiency, independence from homelessness. And while in Jackson, we know that we may be different, I'm sure all these cities are a little different, but some of the other cities that are using this model, New Orleans, they just started working in New Orleans this summer. If you've been there recently, it's noticeably different. Atlanta, already mentioned Cleveland, Ohio, and others that are seeking these results. And we feel that it's possible in Jackson. The mayor's housing task force, he has started these different groups to create a strategic plan for the city. We met and discussed efforts around affordable housing. I know you heard that mentioned today, but we also I want to share this other information that I've heard the mayor talk about, and that is we are not just dealing with a homeless population in Jackson, we're really dealing with the state's homeless population. We see people being transported to Jackson from other cities, from other counties, and even the state's Department of Corrections when people get out of prison. And part of it's because we're a transportation hub in Jackson. We have the bus station, the train station. It's kind of a natural magnet for people that are maybe getting out of the correction system or coming from other parts of the state. But what this is doing is it's putting the burden of this issue on Jackson at a significantly higher rate than certainly our suburban or metro cities and other parts of the state. So my request to you today is to help Jackson, and it will help deliver this novel idea and help people in the most compassionate way here, because, if they're unhoused, what we're offering is housing. And that seems like the most compassionate solution. But it's also going to help deal with this problem for our state and other places that maybe are struggling with it, like the Gulf Coast or Hattiesburg. They will have an opportunity to learn from this experiment in Jackson. So again, thank you for your support. We're going to need you for other things like lighting and streetscapes, and those things also have an impact on that unhoused. We can see as we've cleaned up the park and we're adding lighting and we're adding security cameras, that's having an impact. But at the end of the day, we're just pushing the problem out to other places, and we really need a solution for individuals. So I think if I can turn my page, I think that was most of the points I wanted to make. Thank you. Thank you for your investment, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Liz, thank you for coming. I was very happy to hear you ended your remarks with kind of what I was thinking as I heard your presentation. It seems to me that the city limits of Jackson have shouldered the responsibility for homeless people, certainly for central Mississippi. And I know the census metro area population of the city of Jackson is more than 600,000 people. The population of the city of Jackson is about 140,000 people, so less than a quarter of the Jackson metropolitan area. And yet it seems to me that, I don't know if other surrounding communities are dealing with this, certainly not to the extent that we are, but Jackson is facing the responsibility of dealing with everybody's homeless people in the metro area and in central Mississippi. So it's, in other words, helping solve the homeless problem in the city of Jackson is addressing the homeless problem really for all of the metro area, not just for the people of Jackson, because that's where a lot of these people are coming from. So for a situation like with Clutch or other solutions that you've identified, where does the funding come from? And is it left to the city to pay for everybody's homeless problem?
Right. Well, there is some good news. The city does have some remaining ARP funds, home ARP, and those funds were specifically designated to deal with the unhoused, with providing housing.
Are other surrounding municipalities, do they have money for that too? And,
That I
and
don't
what are they doing if they do, what are they doing with their homeless funds if they've sent all their homeless people to Jackson?
I don't know that question, but I do know the city has a little over $3 million. It will expire in about a year, so there is some urgency that we get this work done. But the city has identified some funds. The state Mississippi Home Corporation also receives funding every year, $2 to $3 million. That's regular. It has not been cut. We've asked that question specifically. That could also potentially be used for this work. The clutch part of this also comes with an expense. So we've got money that we've identified that could be used to rehouse or to negotiate those leases for 12 months, which would include utilities and you know.
That could be anywhere in the metro area and not just within the city limits of Jackson.
I think that's a great question. I don't see why not. I think what they're looking for
If it's
is
a metro,
housing.
if it's a metro problem, shouldn't it be a metro solution, I guess is what I'm trying to get to.
I would think so. But there is ample housing available just based on Clutch's initial assessment. They did not feel like it would be difficult to implement this program here. And we have identified some funds that potentially could be used for this purpose. The clutch fees range depending on the, you know, the level of implementation, and it's kind of hard to tell until you get into the planning stage, but anywhere from 400,000 over 3 years to $1 million over 3 years. So that's some of the funding we will have to seek. The clutch team has said that they feel like we'll be on the low end of that scale, so more in the $400,000 to $500,000 range. So for a 3-year project, rehousing individuals, potentially eliminating chronic homelessness by 1/3 in the city, it seems to me to be doable.
Thank you very much. It sounds promising. It sounds to me like it requires a metro area solution. Thank you.
Okay, well, Liz, thank you very much for your great presentation. We thank you for being with us today, and we do look forward to getting with you. Sound like you're working on a list or request. We'd love to get with you before January, please, on anything we can do to help Downtown Jackson partners.
You got it. Thank you very much.
Joe Sims will run us down. Thank you. Okay, our last subject to talk about today is Senator Andy Berry is going to give us a summary on his ideas of things relative to the downtown fairgrounds area and things that can be done there. And I don't really know everything you're going to talk about, Andy. Why don't you surprise us and tell us?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Of course, that's all state-owned property. So we have a big investment in downtown Jackson, along with all our office buildings as well. So we definitely have an interest in helping with the homelessness.
We do. And Senator Rose, you mind passing those around? Mr. Deborah, I think also has some figures to pass around. And so this is really what I've got to talk about as a follow-up. Back earlier this year, the Lieutenant Governor tasked Senator Bart Williams with his Public Property Committee and myself to meet with the fairground staff to see what their needs might be going forward, and you know, just a kind of an overall campus plan of if Santa Claus came to town and he could dump his sleigh, what all would you get? So Senator Williams and I, we convened kind of a group of stakeholders that use the facilities, gathered together 2 or 3 different meetings that included you know, livestock groups, promoters of that use the trademark, Department of Agriculture staff, just anybody that we could find that had an interest in the fairgrounds and a use and a knowledge of that. And so we gathered them together and came up with kind of an immediate need. And that stapled sheet is a campus-wide improvement list of things that were up there. But I want to go back and before we talk about what we need and talk about what we have done in the past. And so, as you know, the state fairgrounds get spending authority to spend the money that they basically create through rentals and putting on events there like the fair and the Dixie National and other things, and the rent from the facilities. But they don't get any appropriation for operation, for personnel or anything like that. It's all, they have to earn their money and then turn around and spend it. And they spend a lot of that also on maintaining and upgrading or anything they have to do at the fairground. So an appropriations that's been directly to the fairgrounds, which is now, I think since 2020 or 21, the legislature chose to do away with the Fair Commission and put the fairgrounds under the control of the Department of Agriculture. So these are appropriations to the Department of Agriculture for the fairgrounds. So fiscal year 2024, there was about $200,000 to finish up a wireless internet project on the fairgrounds. In 25, there was an appropriation of $400,000 to repair Barn 14, which is kind of a historic construction type method of that barn that's down there. Really, really nice barn. It's where we have, I think there's a luncheon on conference weekend typically down there where they have that at, if you're familiar with that barn. And the map I passed out did not have that one labeled, but I could show it to you. Also, in fiscal year for this year, 2026, $725,000 for seats in the Fordyce Equine Center and repair an elevator over there for some other barn upgrades. And I was talking to them yesterday. They actually performed some of that work themselves to save $40,000 to make sure they could have enough money to repair the elevator in that appropriation. Then they also get some money from DFA. And so in 2022 fiscal year, there was $1 million appropriated for a dressing room renovation and upgrades on the west side of the Coliseum. Those are real nice if you haven't seen them. And then in fiscal year 23, there was $350,000 for ag theft storage. The Department of Agriculture, houses the ag theft department, and they needed somewhere to store their evidence. But unfortunately, that was not enough to build that building that they needed. So they're still holding that money till they can come up with a little bit more. And then this past year, for fiscal year 2026, we appropriated, I believe, $3.5 million to repair Mississippi Street. And that runs basically from the farmer's market in through Gate 14 directly east, would tee into about where Dennery's used to be at over there. That's that whole street that kind of goes in front of the Fordyce and the Coliseum. And so that's a repair for the road, for drainage improvements, for overlay, and repair that street. So between the two, from what I've gathered, that's about $6,175,000 that we've appropriated down there for some upgrades and some repairs. And so we'll get into the needs. And if you look at that staple sheet that I gave you, what we came up with, that, like I said, that's kind of a way I envision it as a 6-year-old little boy writing a letter to Santa, and he's putting everything under the sun in there. And so if Santa Claus came and dumped his sleigh, that's what we would want. But let's narrow it down just a little bit of what we believe and what I believe is more immediate needs. And so you start with the Fordyce Equine Center there, and they need a couple of different things, I think, that would help them immediately. About $150,000 for some more upgrades to the barns, just some general repairs and things that need to make that more user-friendly. Another $100,000 for an equine PA system. They have terrible the system over there is outdated. It doesn't work, and so they need a new one of those. Also, while they need the whole parking lot repave, they desperately need some asphalt at the handicap spots at the Fordyce Center and striping. So that's about $30,000. Then for the Coliseum, and this I've talked to the commissioner, I've talked to the director, Hayes Patrick, I've talked to the man that manages it, Sam Sherrill, and every one of them come back with these two particular things, and I'm gonna add one more in there that they didn't prioritize, but some LED screens, that kind of a four-way center thing that you would see at center court, or some either even put them on the corners of the building. They talk about all the different sports contests that they have there, that they could sell sponsorships to have videos on there, and just making that more user friendly, that people have to rent those things, and they're costing about $30,000 per event just to rent the LED screens for that. So you're looking at, upside of $350,000 for that. Not a lot of money that I think would really enhance the user experience at the Coliseum. And then a sound system is desperately needed in that building as well. And I want to add to that, all the seating is on the second level of the Coliseum. And so there's only really one elevator to get anyone that's handicapped or not very mobile up and down, and it's slow and it's outdated. So some repairs or even maybe an expansion of a second elevator somewhere there. We had talked about even putting escalators in, but there's just not room without totally redoing the Coliseum to put escalators there. So adding a different set of elevators there would be, I think, really helpful. Then you move outside to the Midway, particularly when the fair's in town, and there's no campus-wide PA system. So if an emergency happens, or if you want to promote, some event happening that to steer the fairgoers some way, there's no way to communicate with them. They use the Department of Public Safety's. They have a PA system that they use during the fair, but it's only at closing time or in case of emergency. So they can't announce that, hey, there's cane syrup being made down here, or the petting zoo's open or whatever to fairgoers. So they would like to get a system for that. Then in livestock barns is somewhere that I would like to really, if we had a boatload of money, to put some focus there. But the structures of those barns are good. The bones are good. And so just a few things like some lights upgrade, a PA system, and the aisles that the livestock have to walk on are concrete or asphalt, and those need redoing. So there's $300,000 for some lights, $250,000 for a PA system, and then about $1 million for asphalt. And then you go and one of the big moneymaker revenues down there that stays busy, and even some of our legislature friends utilize, is the RV hookups. And so they need about $50,000 to improve some of those RV hookups. Total is somewhere about $2,700,000 of things that they could need immediately. And also look at kind of some opportunities, and that's why I passed that map out to you. And you'll see I tried to place an X on that map between the Coliseum and some of those livestock barns. And one of the things that we talked about in that group of folks is, while the structure and the bones of some of those livestock barns are really well, they don't serve as a multi-purpose, multi-function type of venue. They're very civic for livestock. And so when you travel across the country and look at other fairgrounds, you see buildings more like the Trademark that are just open floor plan, open space. Though they may not be climate controlled, they are able to be utilized for a number of different functions. They could host a car show. They could host livestock shows. They could even have some indoor soccer played at some of those buildings if constructed the right way. So that's something that I think that from an opportunity standpoint, that if you look at that map of that X right next to the Coliseum on the south side of that breezeway there, would be an opportunity maybe to construct one day down the road a new type of building that's multi-use, though maybe not climate controlled. That would be great if it was, but it would be able to be utilized in a variety of different ways with that. And then you look over on gate, I believe that is 7 and 6 off of Graymont Street. If you've traveled 55 lately, you see that they have just finished tearing down the old Ramada Inn, and have got that looking really, really good over there. The crushed concrete pavement over there. And so what we've seen since tearing down, or what I've observed since tearing down the old Trademark, particularly in the fair, is the flow of people and the traffic patterns have shifted from what they once were. So most everybody parks over now at the old Trademark, and people are coming in off of Graymont, parking at Dennery's, and we so expect that more and more people will use Graymont to park for a variety of different venues, events there. And so at some point in time, I think we need to look at kind of a new entrance way, a new traffic flow pattern for the fairgrounds, getting people not entirely right there at Monroe Street by Taco Bell coming in and out of the fairgrounds, but utilizing Graymont in some way to get people in and out, having that parking space over there. and just, kind of revamping of how we egress and ingress from the Midway. That is what I have for y'all today of what we have gathered. And, I'll say this, just, if you don't know, I fortunately or unfortunately spend a considerable amount of time on the fairgrounds, and have for many, many years as a vendor or as an exhibitor back when I participated in livestock shows. But for the last 11 years, participating in a bunch of different mini trade shows as a vendor at the fair, at the state fair. I spent many hours down there, and the staff does a wonderful job. They're committed to trying to do, but they're greatly understaffed, and they depend a lot upon inmate labor just to try to keep the place clean and picked up. And oftentimes these events turn, in less than 24 hours, and so they're there all night, trying to get stuff done to get the next event ready. And at some point in time, I think we need to look at providing them with a little bit more personnel down there to make sure that they can keep up with the events. But also, when you've got more people there, you take better care of stuff, and things last longer. So that's what I have. Any questions, I will do my best to answer.
That's the first question. Is it the idea that this will be part of the Department of Agriculture's budget and requested needs this year, or part of our capital expense bond bill, for lack of a better term?
I think they would take it either way we chose to give it to them. If we, line itemed it in the MDAC budget, I think that would work, or if we could put CapEx, either way. They won't be picky.
Committee? Dr. Blunt?
Thank you, Senator Berry. I think a lot of times when people talk about Jackson, they forget about what a tremendous asset the fairgrounds is. And it's in Jackson. And whether it's the Dixie National or the fair or all the different events that are happening there all the time, we're glad to have it. And it's a great asset. And the state has made a substantial investment in the past 10 years or so, on that piece of property. And obviously there's more to do, and I appreciate you identifying all this. I'm interested in the armory. You've got that, I'm looking at got that old wore out building where they used to have the flea market years ago when I was coming up. I don't know if that building has any future. That building is immediately to the east of the cafe down there. And then you've got we stabilized the roof some years ago of the armory building. It's a hidden jewel, I think, and I want to know if you had any ideas about what we ought to do with it.
I do not, and I do want to thank you for mentioning about what an asset the fairgrounds are to the city. As you know, my office is right across High Street down Monroe, and so I see 5 days a week the activity that the fairgrounds brings to Jackson, and I would say that it's probably the biggest draw in the city. From diverse of people across the state of locations, and one of the main reasons people come to Jackson is to come to the fairgrounds. But as far as the armory, we stabilized the roof, we cleaned up the inside. It's being used a little bit now for storage of evidence for the Department of Agriculture. But it's limited even in that, because the doors aren't big enough to get many things in the doors, and we can't change the doors because of the historical side of things. I could envision some type of event venue. So, it's got great bones on the outside. It could take just a little bit on the inside to fix that up. But a wedding or event venue, I think, would be a great use of that space going forward, in my unqualified opinion.
Thank you for your time and effort on that, Senator Berry. We appreciate that very much. Any other business needs to come before the committee today? I'd like to remind you that our next meeting will be December the 11th. That'll be a joint meeting with the House. And one of the subjects that this committee was going to meet about, that they were very interested in meeting on, was the CCID court system. I know that's coming up, and there's 2 or 3 other subjects. It'll be 10 o'clock a.m. in room 113. Yes, sir.
Will we issue a final report once we meet with the House to?
They will do a summary. And I think we've already got a couple of pieces of legislation as possibilities from what we've heard so far. I'm going to look further into that Baker Act for sure. and the Clutch. Senator Blunt, you were interested in that Clutch Act. Okay, thank y'all for being with us today. We stand adjourned.